Good morning. We'll just give a moment for folks to clear the waiting room. As a reminder, when you are entering from the waiting room, please mute yourself and remain on mute unless or until you are appearing or testifying before the board. Good morning. This is a hearing before the licensing board for the city of Boston. Today is Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022. Today's hearing is being held pursuant to temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. Today's hearing is being recorded and will be posted to the city of Boston's website. Before I review procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Good morning. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm chair of the Boston Licensing Board, and today I am joined by Commissioner Kiana Saxon and Commissioner Liam Curran.
Thank you. Please ensure that your audio and visuals are working properly. I will call each item in the order that it appears on this morning's agenda. I will then ask who is present on behalf of the licensee, who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department, and whether there are any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify. I will then swear in all parties, after which the police report will be read into the record. The licensee or their representative will then have the opportunity to make a brief statement, followed by questions by the chairwoman and the commissioners. Again, all testimony will be limited only to those individuals with firsthand personal knowledge of the alleged incident. I will begin with the first item on this morning's agenda, calling item number 1, Yoev Corp. Doing business as the Master McGrath, located at 1152 to 1154 River Street in Hyde Park. Date of the incident, February 26th, 2022. Patron on patron assault, 1 victim stabbed in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 15A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
David Paratori, attorney for the licensee.
James Thomas.
Great, thank you. And anyone who is going to testify, if you could please have your camera on so we can properly swear you in. Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department? Anybody here? I don't know if microphones are off. Once again, who's present on behalf of the Boston Police Department for this one?
Lieutenant Detective Troy, if necessary. I don't see either officer here, Officer Sergeant Powell or Officer Clement.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify on this item? Great, could you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Lieutenant Troy, you may please proceed with the police report.
Reading from a police report authored by Officer Castro Clement, reads as follows. About 9:36 on Saturday, February 26, 2022, Officer Clement and Pendergast and Lima responded to a radio call for a stabbing at McGrath located at 1154 River Street, Hyde Park. Prior to arrival, officers received information from Channel 4 dispatcher that the caller stated someone cut him with a knife. On arrival, officers observed ambulance 18 on scene treating the victim, Miles Connors. Officers observed the victim had a laceration to his left forearm. The victim stated he got into an argument with the suspect, Billy or William Cash, over an incident that happened in the past. The victim stated that Cash left the bar through the back door after the argument. The victim stated that his wife, Charlene Connors, and him decided to leave the bar. The victim stated when he was leaving, the suspect attacked him with a knife. The victim stated the suspect attempted to attack him a second time, but was stopped by bystanders. The victim stated the suspect then fled in an unknown direction. Ambulance 18 later transported the victim to the Faulkner Hospital for treatment. Sergeant Powell responded and issued a license premise notice to the establishment, and it further states that Detective Harrington and Detective Sheasley also responded and processed the scene. That's the extent of the incident report.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Attorney Paratori, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, sir. May I Query the lieutenant, was he present on the night of? I couldn't hear. He was not present
Yep.
on the night of?
I was not. I'm reading from a report written by the responding officer.
Okay, Lieutenant, does the report make any indication as to whether or not the alleged victim was concerned when he left the bar, or had any reason to believe that this attack was imminent?
Not from my understanding of the incident report. He was attacked inside the bar and then he was attacked again outside the bar.
It suggests, Lieutenant, it suggests that he was attacked in the bar?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And who made that statement that he was attacked in the bar?
Victim stated he got into an incident with the suspect Billy Cash over an incident that happened. It implies that he had an altercation inside the bar and then left the bar and then was attacked.
It doesn't say argument, it says an altercation occurred inside the bar?
Said he got into an argument with the suspect over an incident
Okay.
that happened in the past.
Okay, yeah, all right, excellent. Thank you. No further questions.
Right.
Thank you. Attorney, would you like to proceed?
Yes, sir. So on the date in question, in brief synopsis, my understanding is that the argument that took place in the bar was simply a verbal disagreement, never raised to the level of that anybody else around it would have been aware. It was simply a verbal disagreement, and that the individual who the alleged victim, when he left the bar, had no reason to believe that there was any concern for his safety, etc. The members of the staff inside the bar had no reason to believe that this was anything other than two folks which had come from a wedding together for cocktails and a bite to eat after, had any reason to, had any further altercation or any issues of violence were going to be imminent. They simply had some sort of disagreement at the table. It never raised to screaming, yelling, pushing, or anything of the like. But and then when they left the bar, they said goodbye to the staff, simply exited the building, and it wasn't for about 15 minutes later that this incident occurred, after they left the establishment. And the individuals were known to each other for an extensive period of time. They attended a wedding together, and they never gave any indication. The bar staff had no reason to believe that there was any concern. Nobody brought any concern to them. They weren't gentlemen standing up, puffing out chests in front of each other. It was simply a measure of two guys, two couples sitting at the table, having a disagreement, and then one of them got up and left, and apparently laid in wait down the block. And it wasn't until the alleged victim stepped out of the restaurant and off property before this incident occurred, providing my client very little to no opportunity to be aware of the incident or provide any protection, or, in my view, any responsibility for protection.
Thank you. Is there anything further, Attorney Paratori, or can we move to questions from the board?
Oh, no, I think we can move to questions.
Thank you. Chairman Joyce, did you have any questions for the licensee?
The only question is, do you know how long they were inside the bar before they left, before the altercation happened?
Maybe 45 minutes or so.
Okay, I don't have any questions, Commissioner Saxon or Commissioner Curran.
And just to confirm, there's no cameras in the bar?
There are cameras in the bar, but they don't record. They're just simply for monitoring from the office.
And the assailant leaving through the back door, what can you tell me a little bit about that?
The back door is a parking lot. The front door is the street entrance. So when people exit to the parking lot, it's presumed they're parked back there and preparing to leave.
So it's used by the public. It's an open way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's a lot that is part of the property, but not exclusive to the restaurant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from the board? Thank you. And the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 2, Fenway Johnny's LLC, doing business as Fenway Johnny's, located at 96 to 98 Brookline Ave. Date of the incident, April 17th, 2022. Assault and battery, patron on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Madam Chairperson Joyce and Commissioners Saxon and Kern, Attorney Seamus O'Kelly for the licensee. There should be present also a witness, Igor Trindade, and also, Igor appears to be on the line, and also John Karen, the licensee. I would expect to hear testimony from Mr. Trindade.
Great, thank you very much. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Morning, Detective Sean Wallace, District 4.
Good morning, thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Great, can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Detective Wallace, you may please proceed with the police report.
About 4:45 p.m. on Tuesday, April 19, 2022, Cadet Mamoli, while assigned to the front desk of District 4, took a walk-in report for an aggravated assault at 96 Brookline Avenue, Boston, Mass. Victim, Noah Kopp, stated on April 17, 2022 at about 1:15 a.m. He was dancing at Fenway Johnny's, 96 Brookline Ave, Boston, Mass, with a group of friends. The victim, Kopp, stated that the bar was busy, but he was having a good time. The victim stated he turned to a group of people across from him and stated, "Are you guys having a good time?" The victim stated that an Asian male then approached the victim and punched him in the face with a closed fist. The victim stated he immediately fell to the ground. The victim stated the unknown suspect's friends then began punching him in the face and head area multiple times. The victim stated that when he saw the unknown suspect outside with his friends, he asked him, "Why did you do this?" To which the unknown suspect replied, "It is what it is." The victim stated that he heard someone in the group mention they were going to get their guns. This is when the victim called 911. However, the victim stated that he ran away from Fenway Johnny's and was no longer on scene when officers responded. The victim stated that he and his friends fled outside of the bar in opposite directions than the unknown suspects. The victim described the unknown suspect who threw the first punch as an Asian male, black hair, skinny build, 5'8" to 5'11", about 20 to 25 years old. The victim stated that he is unsure of exactly how many additional unknown suspects joined in on the punching him, but estimates it was probably around 4 to 6 people. The victim stated that due to the injuries he sustained, he is unable to describe the unknown suspects. However, recall that they were all male. One was a white male and one was an Asian male. The victim stated that he went to Framingham emergency room later that day to treat his injuries. The victim stated that he has a broken left cheekbone, concussion, left black eye, various bumps on head area, and received 5 stitches on the left eyebrow. Victim declined EMS attention and stated he would be following up with his doctor about the cheekbone. Detective Delta 823, which is Detective Wallace, took photos of the victim's injuries. Follow-up investigation on 5:50 p.m. on Tuesday, April 19th, Detective Wallace and Detective Fencer responded to Fenway Johnny's and met with General Manager.
Wallace, is this another police report? I don't think we have it.
Yep, this is not a report that we have in the record.
Yeah, there's 2 supplemental reports. Would you like me to read both?
We can't, unfortunately. They haven't been provided to the licensee and they're not part of the record that we've received.
Okay, well, they were attached to the original report. I'm not sure what the process is. We can certainly get those over to you.
Yeah,
I would also add for the record that I have not read any supplemental reports.
Right, that's why
yeah.
obviously if you didn't have them, you don't have them.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Detective. Yep, thank you for that. Attorney O'Kelly, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Good morning, Detective Wallace. Are you? Is
morning.
it correct? Is it correct that you are the investigating detective in this case? Is that correct?
That is correct.
And would you agree with me that you contacted Igor Trindade, the manager of Fenway Johnny's, with respect to this incident?
That is correct.
And in fact, you had a series of email communications with Mr. Trindade, correct?
That is correct.
And would you also agree with me that you met with Mr. Trindade at Fenway Johnny's to
Yes,
review,
yes.
to review videotape, correct?
Correct. Yes,
And you sat down with Mr. Trindade and reviewed videotape from that evening, correct?
yes,
And Mr. Trindade provided you with a flash drive of the video from that evening, correct?
yes,
And you're in possession of that flash drive, correct?
yes.
For the record, the commissioners, I did not provide a copy of the flash drive to you because I don't have a copy of it. The only copy is in the possession of Detective Wallace. That can be provided subsequent to the hearing if necessary. Would you further agree with me, Detective Wallace, that Mr. Trindade was very helpful in your investigation of this criminal assault and battery?
Yes, he was very helpful. That is correct.
In fact, he approximately 1 week later believed he observed the same Asian male that you have described in the report, namely the attacker, on the premises, correct?
That is correct.
And in fact, he reviewed videotape and provided you with a license plate of a BMW that the Asian male drove away in. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Have you made an arrest in this case?
We charged that male at Roxbury District Court. And that investigation is still ongoing, but yes, he was charged in this crime, correct?
So he was, a criminal complaint was taken out against that individual, and he has been arraigned in the Roxbury District Court, correct?
We had a clerk magistrate's hearing. I'm not sure what the date of the arraignment was, but yes, there was a criminal complaint taken out about the Asian male that you just referenced his license plate, and that he will be arraigned if he has not been arraigned already at Roxbury District Court.
And that process occurred as a direct result of the information provided to you by Mr. Trindade of Fenway Johnny's.
Correct. Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. I have no further questions of Detective Wallace at this point.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Kelly, would you like to proceed with your presentation?
Yes. Commissioners, this was an episode that occurred in Fenway Johnny's at approximately 1 o'clock in the morning on April the 17th of 2022. As you heard from the report, there was a walk-in report by an alleged victim approximately 2 days later, alleging that he was assaulted by an Asian male without provocation in Fenway Johnny's that night. He was dancing and he was assaulted by a male, and he has reported that he has received injuries. I will call Mr. Trindade for some brief questions, if I may.
Absolutely.
Mr. Trindade, could you please introduce yourself to the commissioners, please, stating your name?
I'm Igor Trindade, General Manager at Fenway Johnny's.
Okay. And were you general manager on the night of April the 17th, 2022 at Fenway Johnny's?
Yes.
Do you recall, if anything, happened? Do you recall what happened that evening with respect to an alleged assault and battery that you've heard evidence about?
I do. Of course, I didn't watch it firsthand, but, Detective Wallace and myself watched the video quite a few times. So I have extensive knowledge of what actually happened.
Okay. And you were on the premises that night, correct?
I was.
And what did you do after this fight occurred? Do you recall?
Well, so the fight happened, of course, as normal procedure, we kind of try to not get both parties involved in the fight out the same door. So we kind of held on to we let one of the parties go, and we kept the other ones inside for a little while. And then after a few minutes, just so they dispersed, we let the other group out from another door.
So you separated the parties?
Yes.
And both groups exited the premises correct?
Correct.
At separate times, correct?
Correct. Yes.
And I believe, according to the report, a 911 call was made to the police that night, correct?
Correct.
But by the time the police arrived, the alleged victim of the assault had left the scene. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
And you've heard Detective Wallace's testimony here that you've been actively cooperating with him in his investigation of this incident, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
The commissioners may have some questions of you, Mr. Trindade. I have nothing further.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Trindade, how long did this fight occur? How long did it?
I would say close, if not less than a minute. Like, you know, the report says it started kind of one-on-one, and there, you know, I did have a security, person present, but since it escalated to, you know, like a 4-on-4, of course, I always instruct them to, you know, call for backup. So as one guy is sort of breaking off the two guys, everybody else, you know, all the other security team came in and separated, you know, the entire fight. So I would say 1 minute max.
So that's what I'm trying to figure out. You didn't see the fight occur, you just saw it on the video. Is that correct?
I saw it on the video, yes. I heard it on the radio, and then I, you know, of course,
Okay.
it was in the
So,
middle of the
so
dance floor.
describe for me what measures your security team took. Who's, like, how many security people did you have on the floor? Who saw
we
it?
had-
Who they called? What happened?
We had 15 security personnel on, you know, in-house, and I forget, my head of security was standing at the doorway. So when the radio call came in, he of course ran right in, and another 5-6 team members came and assisted kind of in breaking it out. And we got the, of course, when the fight is happening, you don't know who's right, who's wrong. So we started getting, you know, one of the groups out so they would stop the fight, of course. And then we kind of held on to the other group close to a wall, kind of having them not move so they wouldn't get away or anything like that, or keep fighting.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Commissioner Saxon or Commissioner Curran?
None from me, thank you.
Someone from your staff called the police, or was it just the victim?
It was just the victim. At the time when we, you know, the initial person that got assaulted, we did ask them if they were okay, if they needed medical attention. That's kind of a standard procedure that we ask. And they said, no, they were fine. They were just pissed. You know, they didn't do anything, which we tried to calm them down. And so no, we did not call the police.
And did you speak to your staff about the interactions that happened between the parties outside?
So again, you know, this was at 1:15, if I'm not mistaken. So we closed shortly after that, you know, especially since the fight happened. So my staff, like I said, they separated the groups. I told them to they always keep an eye on, you know, so fights don't escalate. So they spoke to them. They seemed to be fine. They were just upset that they got into a fight for no reason, as, you know, they mentioned. And yeah, we just kept a close eye on them. And then, you know, shortly after 20 minutes or so, everybody exited the building. So I can't speak for that then.
Okay, and why didn't you guys call the police when you have a fight where people are throwing punches 4-on-4 in the middle of your dance floor? Why weren't the police called by you?
Well, you know, we asked everybody if they were okay. We didn't know the magnitude of the fight. Once I saw it after, you know, of course, it brought better perspective. But we asked if everybody was okay. They said they were fine, and we thought it was just a small scuffle. And again,
Sir, you said that you had one security guard on it, and then when it turned into a 4-on-4, he had to call for backup. So,
well, I had one stationed right there, so he was the one that presenced it. And then when, you know, so when the fight started and it kind of got big, it was just a lot of pushing. You know, of course, the main victim did get hurt, as I found out after. But, you know, it was just in the middle of the dance floor. We had quite a few people there, so there was a lot of pushing. We didn't know the magnitude of the actual fight. Everybody else was fine. We didn't witness anybody else actually getting punched in the face or anything like that. So we didn't know how actual big it was.
I mean, did it seem big on video?
On the video, not really. Again, there was a lot of pushing. We did, you know, as Detective Wallace and myself watched, we did witness the victim, you know, the main victim get punched in the face after, but that was right in the middle of the dance floor.
And in the report, the victim says that he had to get stitches on his eyebrow. So, I mean, he would have been bleeding, no?
He had a little bit of blood on his eyebrow, and we did ask if he wanted medical attention. You know, from experience, people tend to decline the medical attention, so they don't have to pay the ambulance bill, you know, unless it's something serious. But we did offer him that, you know, you could ask him if.
All right, I mean, what I'm hearing, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm seeing an incident that's definitely clearly serious enough to call the police at the time that they were throwing punches at each other. And if they're hanging around for 20 minutes outside while the place is closing, the police probably would have arrived that night and it could have been investigated.
The police arrived about 25 minutes or so after, if not.
If the police were called by you right when the fight was happening, it sounds like enough time passed that they would have arrived earlier. Which is why I want you to call the police right away when something like this happens.
Absolutely, sir. And just for the record, sir, they left the door. So, you know, we have cameras right in the doorway. They left the doorway, which, you know, of course, I kept watching the camera so I could have a view of everything. And then they kind of hung out through the side. So in a way, I was unaware that they were still outside until, you know, until I read the report, to be honest. So.
Yeah, but I mean, it all goes back to, at the moment, when you have two large groups of people fighting on your dance floor, the police should be called right away. So no time can pass. I mean, you know, I'll commend you on being cooperative and working with the detective and showing the video and all that kind of stuff, but maybe a lot of that stuff, you know, and it seems to have worked out since they got the assailant afterwards, maybe. But what we're trying to avoid is having to do all this stuff after the fact. It really should have been done that night, hopefully by arriving officers, if they show up quickly, if you call the police quickly.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from the board?
May I ask a question? Does the board wish to view a copy of this video, which I have not seen myself because I've been unable to? I would have provided it, as I said earlier. Detective Wallace is in possession.
I would imagine yes, Chairman Joyce. Is that something you would like to view?
Sure, that'd be great.
Great. Yeah, if this flash drive has been referenced, if this is something that can be provided, that would be appreciated.
Okay, so I will investigate that as to the manner of the provision of that videotape. I'll look into that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
With no more questions from the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 3, Lansdowne Boston Restaurant LLC, doing business as House of Blues, located at 15 through 41 Lansdowne. Date of the incident, March 6th, 2022. Assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, patron on patron, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 15A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Attorney Green. Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. With me this morning is Nick Byer, who is the manager of record of the licensee. Good morning.
Morning, thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Sergeant Michael.
Sorry, we're over speak. One more time.
Sergeant Michael Aziz.
Sergeant Aziz.
Officer Michael McDonough.
And Officer McDonough. Thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Great. Now please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Sergeant Aziz, will you be reading the police report?
Sure, I can read it in. So this report is 222-015-734, authored by Officer McDonough, who is present today. I can read it or you can have him read it, whatever your preference is.
No preference on our end.
So I'll just go ahead and read it. About 1:02 a.m. on Sunday, 3/6/22, officers McDonough and Montero in the Delta 105 Alpha responded to a radio call for a person stabbed at 15 Lansdowne Street, Boston, the House of Blues. Officers were equipped with their body-worn camera. Following units also assisted: myself, the 103 officers Keenan LaRosa, the 445 Sandoval, 421 Pankovich, the 415 officer Pinella, detectives Felix, the 822, the 1 Delta 01 Hurley, the 1 Paul 02 Anderson and Weber, and the 3 Alpha 16 Curry and Royer. Those last several units were Boston EMS. Officers were advised via BPD Channel 5 dispatch that a male had been stabbed multiple times by a group of females. Upon arrival, officers identified the victim, who was outside of the building suffering from multiple stab wounds. Officers, as well as off-duty EMS personnel who were on scene, tended to the victim's injuries. It should be noted the victim was overall uncooperative with officers and did not elaborate in depth on what had happened. D4 detectives to follow up with the victim. Boston EMS 3 Alpha 16 arrived and transported the victim to the Beth Israel for further evaluation, followed by the Delta 421. Officers were informed that the victim had suffered from non-life-threatening injuries. Officers began to tape off and establish the crime scene, as well as speak with various individuals on scene. Officer McDonough was able to speak to the caller, Martina Rosenbaum, who was the manager for the House of Blues. Rosenbaum stated she had gotten a radio call from her staff stating that there was a fight happening outside the building 10 minutes after the conclusion of the concert. Rosenbaum stated she believes the fight had started out on the street and that at the time began to call her staff off to wait for police assistance. Rosenbaum stated she could see the victim bleeding but was unsure from where. Rosenbaum stated she saw 6 to 7 individuals involved, including the victim. When asked to describe anyone who was involved, Rosenbaum stated that the only individual she could remember was a black female 5'2" with blue hair. Rosenbaum stated the off-duty EMT had informed her the victim had been stabbed. Officer McDonough was also able to speak to Nick Byer, who was the general manager for the House of Blues. Byer and Rosenbaum stated that they did have video footage inside as well as outside of the establishment and that they could provide that to detectives. I conducted a code 35 in the establishment and issued premise inspection orders 22453 for patron-on-patron assault, which was the stabbing. Detective Felix processed the crime scene and collected any relevant information, as well as spoke to manager of the House of Blues. He also responded to BI to speak with the victim and collect any additional evidence there. That's the gist of the report.
Great, thank you, Sergeant. Attorney Quilty, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yeah, yes, I would. May I question Detective Aziz first?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Good morning, Detective. Did you file the inspection notice yourself?
I did.
And you indicated that the management cooperated?
Yes, sir.
And you indicated as well that the police were called, but on the inspection notice, it suggests unknown, whereas in the body of the report, it indicates that Ms. Rosenbaum, who's an employee, made the call. Is that correct? As far as you know?
I think there were multiple calls, and when I was filling out the inspection service notice, I wasn't sure who had called, if anybody from the House of Blues, so that's why I checked unknown.
Okay.
At the time. Yeah.
Did it later, the body of the report later indicated that it was her, it was she that called in though, is that correct?
I believe she was one of the people that called, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And they did cooperate with you?
Yes.
And was the video footage, which is referenced, was that provided to the detectives?
At this point, I'm not sure. That would be Detective Felix that would be able to answer that question.
We'll make sure that is provided to the board as well at any point today, at any point rather. Can I ask you if you have any information? I'm informed by staff that they were able to discover that this female with the blue hair had tried to enter the premises without a ticket. And that led to them being able to see her on film at the box office, which information they later provided to the detectives. Do you have any knowledge of that?
I don't have knowledge of that, sir.
Okay. And for the board, I just want to state on the record that Ms. Rosenbaum, who we would submit did indeed make the phone call is literally left 2 days ago for a long planned visit to relatives in Poland and therefore is unable to be with us this morning. We do have a written statement that she provided regarding her activities and what she did that night, which we will provide along with the tape of the incident. Detective, thank you very much. If I may question Mr. Byer. Yes, thank you. Mr. Byer, you've been sworn. Just state your name and your position for the record.
Nick Byer, General Manager of House of Blues.
Okay, and were you present on the night in question?
I was.
And when were you working with Ms. Rosenbaum, who's been referenced earlier?
I was, yes.
Okay, were you with Ms. Rosenbaum when she made the call to 911?
When she initiated the call, I was not there. I was upstairs when the radio call came in. By the time I got downstairs outside, she was already on the call, speaking with them as I was down there.
Okay, and what did you observe when you went outside?
I observed it did appear that there was a wound on the victim, and that at that point the fight had subsided, but we had an EMT on hand too that we tried to give assistance to, but as the police report had stated, was being uncooperative with that. That's what I had witnessed by the time I got down there.
Okay, and can you describe what occurred with regard to the person who attempted to enter without a ticket and then was sent to the box office? Can you explain that to the board?
Yeah, as I was reviewing footage to assist and get to the detective, I had saw the person that had initiated in the confrontation and kind of went back and tracked to see if I could find camera footage from them entering the building that evening. In which case I saw they came through security, attempted to come through. After you go through security, your ticket scan to come into the venue. They did not have a ticket for the event, so we turned them away. So they told them that they would need to go to the box office to get a ticket. This assisted us because we were able to follow them with our cameras to the box office and have them and match up the time of when they bought the ticket, and was able to get a first name and a cell phone number for which that ticket was sent to that night. And then that guest ended up coming back in with a ticket. But that information and camera footage at the box office was also turned over to the detective once we got it.
The information, including the first name and the cell phone number.
Correct. I sent that to Detective Felix.
As well as the footage of the entire incident.
Correct. I had sent that night. I stayed and sent all the camera footage I could find while Detective Felix was there on the scene. I was there till he left. I handed over footage to him on a thumb drive that night. He reached back out to me the following day and was asking for some extended footage of it. So that day I spent even more time combing through footage and getting him the extended footage he needed, which I believe I got to him that day, and he came back out and picked it up. And then it was, I think he followed up with me again, maybe a few days later, in which I was able to provide, and he requested the footage at the box office, which we were able to provide, as well as all the information from our ticketing system that had the name and the phone number.
Great, excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Byer. The chair and the commissioners may have some questions for you. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Chairwoman Joyce. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Thank you, Attorney Quilty. I don't have any questions. If you would just forward the statement, the employee statement, and whatever video you have, that'd be helpful.
We will do that today.
Thank you. Commissioner Curran, Commissioner Saxon, any questions? Okay. Great. In that case, the board will take this matter under advisement, and we will be on the lookout for Ms. Rosenbaum's statement and video from the licensee.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Calling item number 4, Big Causeway LLC, doing business as Big Night Live, Studio B, Guy Fieri's Tequila Cocina, located at 110 Causeway Street. Date of the incident, March 5th, 2022, assault and battery patron on patron in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Kristen Scanlon for the licensee, along with Charlie Kane, who is the Director of Security for the licensee.
Thank you. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Officer Brian Marchand.
Great, thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Okay, can you both please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Officer Marchand. You may please proceed with the police report.
Yes, sir. About 12 a.m. on Saturday, March 5th, 2022, Officers Marchand and Paulino in the Alpha 102 Alpha responded to a radio call for assault and battery in progress at 110 Causeway Street, Boston. Big Night Live. Upon arrival, officers spoke with the victim, Gina DeStasio, who was sitting in a chair with a bandaged head from an apparent laceration on her forehead. Officers observed blood on her face and shirt. Officers advised dispatch to contact Boston EMS at this time. DeStasio was in the company of her boyfriend, who stated his name was Will. DeStasio stated that she was dancing and an unknown object had come from across the room and hit her in the head. DeStasio stated that she did not know where it came from. Boston EMS Ambulance 8 arrived on scene to further evaluate DeStasio. DeStasio declined to transport by EMS and was picked up by her friend, who stated they were going to drive to MGH to be seen in the emergency room. While departing the nightclub, officers were flagged down by security of the venue, who stated that a female individual had been assaulted during the same incident. Officers spoke with Danielle Tierney, who stated they were standing behind DeStasio and her boyfriend when they also saw bottles and cans flying from over them coming from behind. Tierney stated that DeStasio's boyfriend, known as Will, had thought that she and her had thrown the objects. Tierney stated that DeStasio's boyfriend was spitting in their face and yelling at them before they left with security. Sergeant Whiteman, Alpha 906, also responded to the scene and conducted a code 35.
Great.
That is it.
Thank you, Officer. Attorney Scanlon, would you like to address the alleged incident?
Yes, just a couple questions for Officer Marchand. Officer Marchand, you personally responded to this call, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And during your review of this incident and involvement in this incident, were staff cooperative with the Boston Police Department?
Absolutely.
No further questions for the officer at this time, but if I may, that evening, the premises was just under 70% capacity for the event that was going on that night. They had approximately 30 plus security staff members, managers, one of the directors and vice president, and an approximate 35-to-1 patron to staff ratio that evening. The licensee has no real dispute to the police report that was read into evidence this morning. The patron, as it indicated, notified staff that an unknown object thrown presumably by an unknown individual had struck her in the head. The staff, upon notification, then took the patron into Studio B, which is the protocol laid out in their security policy and procedures if an incident does occur, which removes the patron from the floor, called 911 and waited for police to arrive. As the police report indicated, the individual did decline EMS transport. There was nothing of any notable significance prior to or subsequent to this incident with any patrons that would lead staff or security to believe that anything like this would occur. Both the compliance specialist for the licensee and Mr. Kane reviewed video surveillance footage, which we can certainly share with the board, but it's pretty much inconclusive, which we also shared with the Boston Police Department back in April. No event can be spotted on camera other than the reporting individual's reaction. Since this event, they have installed a new type of viewing platform that enhances their ability to retrieve and review video specific for nightlife. The cameras look like daytime, even through lights, haze, strobes, specifically designed for these nightlife venues. They were waiting on it for a while prior to this incident, but like many other things, were backed up with supply chain issues. Despite that, they did have pretty advanced technology prior to, and can submit again to the board any still pictures and live video, but there's nothing really, again, to be seen on the video. As police report again indicates, it was an unknown individual, unknown object. For the record, the venue doesn't use or allow any bottles or cans. They only use plastic cups at this premises. Charlie, if there's anything you want to add at this time, please feel free. And of course, we're happy to answer any questions the board might have regarding the incident.
Yes, just the video was inconclusive. As Attorney Scanlon stated, you can see a reaction of the female patron, but you don't see any object that struck her. And she also stated, we have a glass stick and plastic at the venue, no bottles or glass in the venue at all. And as she stated also, we enhanced the camera system with these new nightlife cameras that it remarkably shows color and very detailed, that would enhance incidents like this in the future.
Thank you. I'll turn to questions from the board. Chairwoman Joyce, any questions?
My only question is just a clarification. Attorney Scanlon, you said the ratio of security to patrons was 30-1 that night. I'm not sure I heard you correctly.
35-1, but Charlie, please chime in if I'm incorrect on that approximate number.
Oh, that's correct.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
You, Commissioner Saxon or Commissioner Curran, any questions?
None from me, thank you.
I don't need it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Calling item number 5, MYN Corp. doing business as Dublin Pub located at 7-9 Stoughton Street in Dorchester. Dated the incident March 6th, 2022. Assault by means of dangerous weapon, firearm, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and assault and battery patron on patron in front of premise, in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Chapter 265, Section 13A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
William Gardner representing the licensee. Present with me is the actual manager, Yasa Mohammed, and 2 representatives and operators of the private security firm that the licensee uses, William Dunn and Jesse Omadi, who were both on site on the evening of the incident.
Thank you. Who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective Kevin Coakley.
Thank you, Detective. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning? Can you all please raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Detective Coakley, you may please proceed with the reports.
Which report am I reading here? The officer's initial report or my supplemental report regarding the investigation? Okay, the initial report.
Yes.
Yes, we do have supplementals on the record as well, which were hand served to the establishment. So those will also be part of it.
I understand.
Thank you.
Okay, the report reads as follows. At about 1:19 a.m. on Wednesday, 3/2/2022, Officer Marcel, the Bravo 412 Alpha, responded to a radio call for a shot spotter activation of 6 rounds in the area of 17 Stoughton Street, Dorchester. Multiple units from B2 and C11 responded to assist. It should be noted in the area of 14 Cushion Ave, which is the next street over from Stoughton Street, there were 3 separate shot spotter activations for a total of 14 rounds. The Channel 6 dispatcher advised Officer Marcel that there were no ballistic evidence found on Cushing Ave and that the shot spotter activation had mapped the location of shots incorrectly. Dispatch was advised by the caller that they heard multiple shots coming from outside the Dublin house, and that there was a black male wearing a black top and gray sweatpants as a possible suspect who was firing shots. The caller was also advised The caller also advised dispatch that 3 vehicles, one being a Chrysler sedan, sped away from the area but was unable to give a description of any of the other vehicles that fled the area. Upon arrival on Stoughton Street, officers observed a large amount of people outside of the Dublin House who were leaving as they arrived. Officers searched the area for any ballistic evidence and damage. Officers did not locate any victims, nor were they made aware of any potential victims in the area. A total of 17 shell casings and 1 live round were located. 7 shell casings and 1 live round were located in front of 25 Stoughton Street. 5 were located in front of number 21. 4 were located outside number 11, and 1 was located outside of number 11. There would also be 4 vehicles that sustained ballistic damage. A black Mercedes Echo 320, Mass Reg 1 HNT 39 that was parked across from number 25 sustained ballistic damage to the windshield, front passenger window, and on the roof above the passenger side window. A red 2014 Infiniti QX60 Mass Reg 3 WE961, which was parked next to number 25, sustained 3 shots to the trunk door, with the rear window also being severely damaged. A gray 2021 Hyundai Kona Mass Reg 69BH45, which was parked outside of number 15, sustained ballistic damage to the passenger side window, as well as the hood. A white 2009 Chevy Tahoe Mass Reg 2HL 949, which was parked outside number 15 Stoughton Street, sustained ballistic damage to the rear of the window. Officer Marcel spoke with Ali Nazare, who is the manager of the Dublin House. Nazare stated that prior to officers' arrival, there was a large group of people outside of the Dublin House that appeared to be arguing with each other prior to the shots being fired. Nazare believed that he saw a short Hispanic male, possibly in his 20s to 30s, no clothing description, in the area with something in his hand that appeared to be a firearm, but was not 100% positive. Nazare stated that after the group had dispersed, they had all fled down Stoughton Street. It should be noted that there are 2 cameras outside of the Dublin House at 7 Stoughton Street and 1 camera on the corner of Columbia Road and Stoughton Street at 1 Stoughton Street. B2 Detective Coakley and Diaz responded to process the scene. That's the end of the first report. Am I reading the second report now?
Yes, please do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Detective, do you have the second report? don't know if
I
it's
do.
frozen.
I'm sorry. It's just pulling it up. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. I didn't know if you were frozen or not. But take your time.
This report's a little lengthy. This supplemental report is being generated to state the following. At about 1:19 a.m. on Wednesday, 3/2/2022, members of the Boston Police Department Area B2 and C11 responded to the area of Cushing Ave and Stone Street for 4 separate shot spotter activations for a total of 20 rounds. Simultaneously, B2 dispatch received several 911 calls for 15 people fighting, shots fired, people running, and cars fleeing in the area of the Dublin House, 7th Stoughton Street. Detective Kevin Finn, the Harry 803, was able to view flare video from the area and notified responding officers that an altercation may have taken place outside the Dublin House. Image of possible suspects sent out via department email by Detective Finn. Detective Coakley, the Bravo 807, Detective Diaz, Bravo 814, responded on scene. Ballistic evidence collected and the scene was photographed. Responding officers were able to locate evidence: 22 shell casings and 1 live round/cartridge on Stone Street. Specifically, 11 casings and 1 live round in front of 25 Stone Street, 5 shell casings in front of 21 Stone Street, 5 shell casings in front of 11 Stone Street, and 1 shell casing in the road opposite of 11 Stone Street. Officers did not locate any victims nor were made aware of any potential victims in the area. A total of 4 vehicles sustained ballistic damage. A black 2004 Mercedes E320 Mass Reg 1 Harry November Tango 39. A red 2014 Infiniti XQ60 Mass Reg 8 Whiskey Echo 961. A gray 2021 Hyundai Kona Mass Reg 69 Bravo Hotel 45. And a white 2009 Chevy Tahoe Mass Reg 2 Harry Lima 949. All damages were sustained while parked on Stoughton Street. During the subsequent investigation, Detective Jarrow, Hagerich, Hardy, and Coakley were able to view video of the incident in front of the Dublin House utilizing BPD's FLAIR system. At about 1:12 a.m., a small fight breaks out between 2 unknown males. These males can be observed pushing each other out of the Dublin House establishment. The incident draws the attention of multiple onlookers. Amongst these onlookers, detectives' attention were drawn to a light-skinned, heavy-set, or stocky black Hispanic male, suspect number 1, wearing a red puffy coat with a red shirt or hooded sweatshirt underneath, light-colored jeans, and light-colored boots. This male appears to have a beard or shadow beard with braids / cornrows and a slight receding hairline. This individual appears to remain on the outskirts of the group as the unknown individuals are separated by other known patrons onlookers. At about 1:15 a.m., a second skirmish breaks out. At this time, several individuals at about 1:15 a.m., a second skirmish breaks out, this time with several individuals knocking into the male, suspect number 1, in the red jacket, red sweatshirt, red shirt, light colored jeans, and light colored boots. This time, the unknown male, suspect number 1, becomes agitated and appears to engage with several individuals in the doorway of the Dublin House. During this altercation, a second unknown male, suspect number 2, black jacket, light colored sweatpants / joggers, winter hat, appears to separate from the group. His attention is now drawn to the unknown male wearing the red puffy jacket, light colored jeans, red shirt, light colored boots. This male, suspect number 2, takes several steps away from the male in the red jacket, suspect number 1, and appears to remove an item or what is believed to be a firearm from his coat pocket. This firearm falls to the ground and catches the attention of several onlookers who in turn begin to flee the area. Suspect number 2 picks up the firearm and walks from the sidewalk and begins to chase after suspect 1. Suspect 2, black jacket, light colored sweatpants, joggers, winter hat, is observed firing several rounds at suspect number 1, red puffy jacket. Suspect 1 is observed running away down Stoughton Street towards Stoughton Street Place, the high numbers on Stoughton Street, ultimately crossing over Stoughton Street towards the cemetery, which is the opposite side of the street, in an attempt to get away from the gunfire. Suspect number 1, the red puffy coat, is then observed circling back on Stoughton Street on the opposite side of the Dublin House, ducking behind several parked motor vehicles. As suspect number 1 walks / runs on Stoughton Street back towards Columbia Road, he is observed with a firearm in his left hand, discharging several rounds across the street. Detectives are able to observe a muzzle flash from the firearm as suspect number 1 is pointing the firearm. Ballistic evidence is ultimately recovered in a grouping on this sidewalk area of Stoughton Street. Suspect number 2 then flees Stoughton Street in an unknown direction as suspect number 1, red puffy coat, returns to the corner of Columbia and Stoughton Road. As the crowd begins to disperse and vehicles are attempting to flee the area, suspect number 1, red puffy coat, is observed walking towards a parked silver Chevrolet truck, which is parked illegally on the sidewalk at Stoughton and Columbia Road. Suspect is observed walking with his left hand in his coat pocket as he crosses the street towards the truck. The truck is unable to pull away from the sidewalk as it's blocked in for several minutes as fleeing motor vehicles. Suspect number 1 enters the front passenger seat of the silver Chevrolet truck with an unknown male driving and an unknown male in the back cab of the truck. The truck then drives away on Stoughton Street towards Everett Ave / Summer Street / Pleasant Street area. It should be noted that detectives Jarrow, Hagerich, and Coakley were able to view FLAIR video starting at 10:41 p.m. on 3/2/22 from the Columbia Road and Dudley camera, which shows the same silver Chevrolet parked illegally on the sidewalk. Suspect number one, light-skinned, heavy-set black Hispanic male, braids, red puffy coat, red shirt, or hooded sweatshirt underneath, light-colored jeans, light-colored boots, is observed exiting the driver's seat and entering the Dublin house. The vehicle was occupied by two other males, which when it parked on the sidewalk. Detective Hegarich was able to utilize the BPD flare camera and observe Texas plate Mike Zulu Papa 632 attached to this silver Chevrolet. A CJIS query confirmed that the vehicle is a 2022 Chevy pickup truck, which was listed as a Hertz rental motor vehicle. Detective Jarrell was able to contact the Hertz rental car company and obtain the renter's information from the contract on file. Detective Jarrell learned that the vehicle's rental agreement, which is listed under the name Alexis Hidalgo, 11281 of 220 Pearl Street, Somerville, with a phone number of 857-867-9531. Detective Jarrell performed a CJIS inquiry on Alexis Hidalgo, which 11281, which was able to view a mass RMV photo. Detective Jarrell is familiar with Alexis Hidalgo from past investigations. Based on Hidalgo's RMV photo, his familiarity with him on past investigations and flare video, Detective Jarrell confirmed that this person known to him as Alexis Hidalgo is in fact the same individual who was in possession of and discharged a firearm at an individual or individuals outside of the Dublin house on the morning of 3/2/2022. Based on the above facts, specifically that detectives were able to utilize BPD flare system to view video of the incident, which showed a heavy-set, light-skinned Hispanic black male with braids and a beard, wearing a red puffy coat with receding hairline, discharge a firearm after a verbal altercation, coupled with the fact that detectives were able to identify Alexis Hidalgo through a license plate associated with a rental car at the scene, along with Alexis Hidalgo's RMV photo, which B2 detectives believe matches the height, weight, body, description, nationality of person observed discharging the firearm. And lastly, Detective Jarrell's familiarity with Alexis Hidalgo from past investigations. Detectives believe that probable cause exists to place Alexis Hidalgo under arrest for various firearm offenses. Detectives alerted members of the Youth Violence Strike Force that there was probable cause to arrest Alexis Hidalgo for various firearm-related charges. Detective Stephen Ridge learned that Alexis Hidalgo was currently on federal probation and or a federal inmate that was being housed at 307 Huntington Ave. It was also learned that Alexis Hidalgo's place of employment was in the area of 541 Dudley. Members of the Youth Violence Strike Force were able to locate Alexis Hidalgo in the area of 541 Dudley Street and place him under arrest. Alexis Hidalgo was transported to Area B2 and booked in the usual manner. Simultaneously, Detectives Hardy and Jarrell, along with Lieutenant Detective Conley, went to 307 Huntington Ave and were able to obtain footage of Alexis Hidalgo arriving at the Federal Halfway House around 5:18 a.m. on today's date. Alexis Hidalgo was identified by staff members to detectives. In the video obtained by detectives, Alexis Hidalgo is observed with a beard/shadow beard, braids with a light receding hairline, red puffy coat, red sweatshirt, light colored jeans, and light colored boots. Alexis Hidalgo is also observed leaving the residence at 8:17 a.m. wearing the same clothing. Members of the Youth Violence Strike Force were able to locate Texas Reg MZP 2632 in the Woodward Ave area. This vehicle was towed via department tow to B2. Vehicle was secured pending a search warrant. Alexis Hidalgo to be charged with the following: firearm discharge within 500 feet of a dwelling, unlawful possession of firearm, unlawful possession of ammunition, assault by means, dangerous weapon, gun, armed career criminal level 3. The investigation into the identity of suspect number 2 is ongoing. End of the report.
Thank you, Detective. And we have one final report, which was authored by Detective Hernandez. This was the license permit inspection notice. I don't know if you're able to read that or who has that report.
I do not have it.
Detective Gallagher, I can read that report into the record if you'd like.
Thank you. Can we just swear you in quickly first?
Sure.
Great. Thank you. Raise your hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. You may proceed.
On Sunday, March 6, 2022, Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, Detective Eddie Hernandez, assigned to the BPD licensed premise unit, responded to the Dublin House located at 7 Stoughton Street to speak to staff regarding a shots fired incident that occurred on 3/2/2022, last four of the BPD incident number 4668. Detectives spoke to the person in charge, Yasser Mohammed, who confirmed that he was aware of the incident. Mr. Mohammed informed detectives that B2 detectives had already contacted him and the establishment had provided video to the investigators. Mr. Mohammed further stated that the incident did not originate inside the establishment. As a result of this incident, Sergeant Gallagher issued a licensed premise inspection notice number 060971 for assault and battery with a dangerous weapon, patron on patron, in front of premise, and assault by means of a dangerous weapon, firearm. Mr. Mohammed signed for and accepted the notice. Those are essentially the facts of that report.
Thank you very much. Attorney Gardner, would you like to address the alleged incident? Oh, you are on mute. Hang on one second.
There we go. If I just may ask Detective Sergeant Gallagher just a couple of quick questions. Detective Sergeant, are you there?
Sir, I am.
Yes. You spoke to Mr. Mohammed concerning this incident?
I did.
Yes. And he was cooperative, was he?
Yes, sir, he was.
And in fact, he indicated to you in accordance with your report that he had already provided the B2 detectives with copies of the video from inside the premises for the evening in question, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you have a chance to look at those videos?
I did not, sir.
Okay. Has there been any indication that there was any type of altercation or argument of any sort inside the licensed premises on the night of the incident?
The original incident report that Detective Coakley read in mentions that there was something going on by the front door and it looked like people were being pushed out the front door. So something might have happened inside, but I don't have knowledge of that.
There's no, did you talk to the B2 detectives? Have they, anybody in that group indicated to you that they saw something going on inside the premises?
Only from the police reports, sir.
And the shootings and the chaos that was occurring was outside the premises, was it not on Stoughton Street?
That's correct.
Okay. And in the inspection notice, you also indicate that the police were called. Were you aware that they were called by the management of the Dublin House?
I believe they did call, sir, yes.
Okay. But the incident happened spontaneously. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the police responded almost immediately after the first shot was fired. Is that so?
That's correct.
I don't have any further questions. If I may address the incident, and Madam Chairman, Commissioners, the Dublin House has private security on board at the premises. On the evening in question, they had 6 people, including Mr. Dunn and Mr. Omadi, who were here with us this morning. They're retained by the licensee and are there 6 nights a week. They were there on this night in question. They had 6 security people there. The protocol is nobody gets in the front door unless they are frisked for any type of weapons. They didn't, on this particular evening, have any incidents with people trying to bring weapons into the premises. In addition to that, they didn't have any incidents of altercations or arguments, specifically between the individuals involved in this instance. From looking at the tapes, Mr. Mohammed and the staff had indicated that the man, the suspect number 1, who's referenced in the report, was on site for about an hour prior to the incident, but had no interaction with anybody that was adverse, any type of fight, anything that could have been a precursor to what happened in front of the premises. They fully cooperated with the investigation. They provided the B2 detectives with all of the footage from that night inside the premises and for whatever they could view on the outside of the premises. They called the police as soon as the incident happened. In essence, the incident itself was somewhat spontaneous on the outside of the premises. And we believe we've done what we could to protect our patrons. Thank you.
Thank you. I will turn to questions from the board. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions?
Thank you. Attorney Gardner, so your testimony today is that no incident at all occurred inside?
It did not happen inside. There is the reference that Detective Sergeant Gallagher referenced that people were coming out the door. They may have been jostling a little bit. But the setup here is that you come in the door and there's a little alcove. And before you get out of that alcove, you are searched thoroughly by the licensed security company that's on site there. As they were going out, if something, just from the report, it's a little unclear as to, what was going on as they were exiting, but obviously it escalated beyond a little pushing and shoving. None of that happened inside the premises.
So remind me again how many security you had on that night?
There was 6 from the licensed security company that was retained by the licensee, plus I think there was at least 4 or 5 employees who aren't dedicated security like the licensed security folks are, but there was multiple people on board with eyes and ears on the situation.
So the police report, or it indicates, the testimony indicates that the suspect was inside for about an hour.
It doesn't indicate that in the report, but from the review of the tapes,
Okay.
once the detective identified who they thought the suspect was, when they reviewed the tapes with Mr. Mohammed, they went back and tried to determine at least one of them had been in there for about an hour.
Okay.
The other one, we're not sure where he came from. If he was there, he wasn't there for a great deal of time.
And based on your review of the videotapes, what was this person doing for an hour? Was there anything on the video that indicated there was an issue with him?
No, nothing whatsoever.
Is he a regular at the Dublin House?
Do you guys know? No, they wouldn't say he was a regular. Have you seen before? Mr. Dunn and Mr. Omadi, who operate the security company, indicate they had not seen him.
Okay, and do you know, based on the video that you reviewed, when he went outside, did he immediately start a fight, or did he go to his car? What happened?
We don't know once he left the door. The video that we have is for the interior of the premises. I believe the video that's referenced in the report was the city system.
And were you able to determine how much this suspect had to drink while he was inside?
Not that many, maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Maybe 1 or 2.
I see him.
Can't wait.
These folks from the security company, Mr. Dunn and Mr. Omadi, are trained to look for telltale signs of people who may be causing trouble, and he didn't stand out at them.
How long has this security team worked at the Dublin House?
Been there for 3 years.
3 years.
3 years.
Since the pandemic.
6 nights a week. The only night they're not there is on a Monday night, which is rather slow.
Okay, I don't have any questions at this time. I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Curran and then Commissioner Saxon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone know who suspect number 2 was? Was he in the building?
No.
They're not sure on who he was. They don't think he was in the building.
Did you do a search of your video to see if you could find him in the building?
Well, we didn't know we don't know who he was. The detectives who reviewed the video with Mr. Mohammed didn't identify him off of those videos as being who suspect number 2 at the time. When they looked at the videos, Mr. Commissioner, it was early on in the process, so maybe they didn't know who suspect number 2 was at the time. But
okay, maybe not specifically, but whether he was even a patron.
When we don't think he was, but we can't identify him anyway. We could be wrong on that, to be honest with you.
Detective Copley, can you state whether the other suspect came from inside the Dublin House?
I can't be certain.
Okay. And is there any indication on the video that these suspects with firearms might have retrieved them after they exited the Dublin House?
Can you repeat the question?
From Detective Copley, sorry.
Sorry.
From watching the video, is there any, we've had incidents in the past where patrons have exited a premises and gone to retrieve a firearm from another person or vehicle. Is there any indication that's what could have happened here or no?
No indication. There's a large gathering outside, so there's no indication where the firearm, whether it was retrieved from another person or a vehicle. There's no indication.
Okay. And this thing I'm seeing from the initial pushing and shoving, like when it was first getting going, to when shots were fired was approximately 3 minutes. Is that correct?
Yeah. There was a couple skirmishes, so it might have been longer than 3 minutes, but there's 2 skirmishes.
Okay. So from the first skirmish, with like more like 5-6 minutes, or
I'd closer to 5, but again, I'm estimating.
yeah. And Attorney Gardner, when did people from your premises, your clients, when did they initiate the call from the police? With shots fired or during the skirmishes?
I think it was right when the skirmishes began. The first thing that they saw, they were trying to protect the patrons who were trying to get out of the place. Someone on the security staff yelled back to Allie, the person indicated in the first report, who made the call right away.
And one more question. You said you were frisking. Did you do any wanding with the magnetometer?
No, they don't do it.
We do a strict pat down.
They do a strict pat down for each and every patron who comes through that door. And the way it's set up with that alcove is kind of advantageous because it allows them to eyeball the people before they come in. And they did everyone who walked in that door, and nobody brought in a firearm on this particular evening.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are patrons allowed to wear coats inside the premises? I keep on hearing that the suspect had a puffy coat. Are they allowed to wear it and walk around the premises with those coats?
Yes.
Yes. It was winter time.
It was winter time, and if they had come in the middle of July with that type of coat, that would be one of the indicators that would probably cause some further investigation by the security firm.
And so in your pat down, do you ask them to take the coat off?
During the pat down, I go from the sleeves. I cover the sleeves. We go down the sides. I go, if they have a coat on, I go up the back of the coat inside. I go down the waist, around the waist. Then I check the pockets, the back pockets, down each side of the leg.
And we also check the hoods, and we ask them to open the coat when they're inside as well. So we go inside the coat.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the board? Oh, all right. In that case, the board will take this matter under advisement as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling item number 6, Carmack Inc. doing business as 6B Emmett's located at 6 Beacon Street. Date of the incident, April 29th, 2022. Persons under 21 in possession of alcohol on premise in violation of Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 34A, 34C, and 6464A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee? Oh, sorry, hang on, Ms. Palmer, you are muted. Let me ask you to unmute.
Hi,
Thank you. If you could just identify yourself, please.
Elizabeth Palmer. I'm the general manager.
Great, thank you very much. And who is present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective Hernandez.
Great, thank you. And are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Detective William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you. Can you all please raise your right hand? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Detective Hernandez, you may please proceed with the police report.
Good morning. I'm going to read from a police report, which I wrote on Friday, April 29, 2022. Charged Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez assigned to the BPD License Premise Unit conducted a license premise inspection of Emmett's located at 6 Beacon Street in Boston. As detectives were walking through the establishment, they observed 2 young-looking patrons drinking alcoholic beverages. Detectives asked them to produce identification to confirm their ages. Both patrons immediately stated that they were over 21 years of age and provided them with driver's licenses. Both patrons, later identified as Caitlin Dressel and Julian Brunner, initially provided detectives with mass driver's licenses which contained their correct name but displayed a date of birth that had made it appear as if they were over 21 years of age. Detectives used a license verification program which confirmed that the driver's licenses were indeed fraudulent. The fraudulent mass driver's licenses were confiscated by detectives. Both individuals will be summoned to corporate persons under 21 possession of alcohol and possession of fraudulent identification. Detectives brought this to the attention of the person in charge, Mr. David Fury. As a result of what detectives Detective Gallagher issued license premises inspection notice 043317 for persons under 21 in possession of alcohol on premise. Mr. Fury signed and accepted the notice. So,
Thank you. Ms. Palmer, would you like to address the alleged incident?
No, it's pretty straightforward. There were some girls that were on premise that had fake IDs. We have since hired new door staff, and as of last week, at the suggestion of Sergeant Gallagher, I purchased 2 ID scanners, one for each entrance. And that's pretty much it.
Great. Thank you very much. We'll move to questions from the board. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions?
Yeah, what time of day did this happen?
I think it was around between like 11 and 12, possibly a little earlier.
looking at the report time, it says 11:43.
Oh, okay, sorry, I missed that. And I'm curious, Ms. Palmer, how much were the ID scanners?
They were almost $900 each.
And do you pay any additional fee per scan or anything like that?
It does come with like a software that I think you need to like keep updated and keep current and pay for a subscription. I'm not aware of any like individual charges for IDs.
Okay, I appreciate that. I don't have any questions, Commissioner Curran and then Commissioner Saxon.
I guess a question for our officers. Do the IDs look like valid Massachusetts licenses?
Pretty good.
And Ms. Palmer, did you inquire of your staff? Were they ID'd?
Yeah, we did have a door guy on that night. My door staff starts at 8 p.m. So presumably they were shown. He said that he had seen them. He didn't recognize them as fakes.
And do you have like backup? Do you rely just on the door staff, or does your wait staff or bar staff also ID to confirm for themselves?
It depends on the circumstance. Typically, like if they had been in earlier and were at a table for dinner, our kitchen closes at 11. Typically, if they've been carded at the door and they were sitting at a table for dinner, they might not get carded. Obviously, the bartenders, like if we ever suspect someone looks young, if I was on the bar, I would ask to see their ID again. I'm a little surprised these girls weren't carded a second time, but it kind of depends on the circumstance.
But it's your belief that they weren't carded when they were served?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Thank you.
Nothing further, thank you.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you very much. The board will take this under advisement. Thanks.
Thank you.
Now calling item number 7, CMR Prime LLC, doing business as Ocean Prime, located at 140 Seaport Boulevard. Due to the incident, June 9th, 2022, blocked fire exit in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 138, Section 64, and Board's Rule 1.06A, and expired entertainment license in violation of Mass General Laws, Chapter 140, Section 183A. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good morning, Madam Chair, Secretary Green, Commissioners Tom Miller, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller in Boston. I am joined by the General Manager of Ocean Prime, Tyler Maniscalco.
Great, thank you very much. And who's present on behalf of the Boston Police Department?
Detective William Gallagher, I can read it.
Thank you. Are there any other individuals with firsthand knowledge of the alleged incident who wish to testify this morning?
Sergeant Detective William Gallagher, if need be.
Thank you very much. Can you all please raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Detective Hernandez, you may proceed.
Good morning. Again, I'll be reading from a police report which I authored on Thursday, June 9th, 2022. Sergeant Detective William Gallagher and Detective Eddie Hernandez assigned to the BPD license permit conducted a license premise inspection of Ocean Prime located at 140 Seaport Boulevard in Boston. Upon reviewing the licenses and permits of the establishment, detective observed that there was no City of Boston entertainment license posted. As detectives walked through the restaurant to make sure the fire exit were obstructed, they observed the front main door fire exit blocked by a planter. Detectives brought this to the attention of the person in charge, Ms. Hannah Tardif. Ms. Tardif was unable to provide detectives with the current license. The detectives observed, Charge Detective Galley issued a license for inspection notice 043131 for no City of Boston entertainment license posted in the block fire emergency exit. Ms. Tardif signed for and accepted the notes.
Great, thank you very much. Attorney Miller, would you like to address the alleged incident?
I would first, can I ask Detective Hernandez a question?
Absolutely.
Detective Hernandez, when you were at the licensed premise, were the staff cooperative and management helpful in your investigation?
Yes, extremely.
Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioners, Madam Chairwoman, as Secretary Green said, we're here for 2 alleged violations today. The first issue, which is I'm going to address, is the cited the expired entertainment license. I know that this is not essentially the purview of this board, but I want to address it quickly. The licensee had applied for a renewal in a timely manner, but was unable to get their certificate of inspection due to work the landlord was doing at the time. They submitted the receipt for the payment of the inspection at the time in its place. Since that time, they have received the current CI once it was issued and signed, and have since received the renewed entertainment license. Second, the citation for the blocked fire exit. After the restaurant closes to patrons, to new patrons anyway, the licensee locks that revolving door mentioned in the report to prevent any new patrons from coming in. To prevent any patrons from leaving, they use a plant. They had used in the past a planter to indicate that that door was not able to be used. If you're looking at that revolving door from the inside of the restaurant, immediately to its right, and as shown in the photograph submitted to the board, is a signed emergency exit with a crash bar, push bar that will allow any patron looking to exit the premise in an emergency or just to leave for the evening through that, attempting to leave through that door, to leave unobstructed. Additionally, there are other exits throughout the establishment patrons can use. Since the citation, the licensee is no longer using the planter. They're looking into using signage directing people to that door that is immediately to the right of the revolving door, so that any patron is aware that that revolving door isn't able to be used, because were it left unlocked, it would be difficult to prevent any patrons seeking to enter from entering after closing hours. We're happy to answer any questions the board has related to these incidents. This incident.
Thank you, Attorney Miller. Chairman Joyce, do you have any questions for the licensee?
So just to make sure I understand correctly, the planter is no longer used and you'll have signage. Will the revolving door be locked?
The plan is to lock the revolving door and direct patrons to, as submitted in the photograph, like immediately adjacent to the revolving door, signage indicating patrons cannot enter and directing patrons inside to the door immediately to the right of the revolving door.
Okay, just want to double check with our team, Sergeant Gallagher, Detective Hernandez. Is that okay that the revolving door is locked?
Madam Chair, Sergeant Gallagher, it is the main door that a lot of people use. I was in last week talking to the licensee, and we discussed the door a little bit. I kind of equated this to the inspection we did at Christmas time down at Smith and Walensky's. They've got kind of the same setup, but the revolving door that they close at a certain hour. Like I stated, it is the main entrance for the premise. There is a door to the left with a sign over it that says exit, but in the case of an emergency, most people go to the way they came in, and I could see some confusion coming about in case of panic that people would be pushing in that door and not be able to get out. Then they'd have to, go the other way. It's kind of a jump ball. You look at it, and public safety is probably the most important thing that I look at in this case, and I would defer to the board's decision on how they want to react on this.
Madam Chair, just to
Okay.
Sorry, just to address that real quick, and I'm not going to claim to be an expert on the building code, so I won't, I won't comment on that, but it is not assigned emergency exits. The revolving door is not set up that way. However, if the board wishes, we can look into leaving that unlocked and creating signage on both sides. But as Sergeant Gallagher said, it is the door most people do try to get in. So once we are closed, it would create an issue for the licensee, preventing new patrons from coming in, and it should not affect patrons exiting at the end of the evening. But we'll leave that up to the board's discretion as to how they handle that.
What time do you lock it? I think we're envisioning more of like a fire happening and people not being able to get out.
Yep, the licensee's hours, I believe they close at 10 p.m. Most nights, and they lock it at that point. And then after that, that was when the planter was placed. So it was after closing. And that is when it was locked.
Okay. All right. I'll have to think about that one. Commissioner Curran?
Do we have any guidance from either fire or ISD as to how we should?
I feel like we did a couple of years ago. That's what I'm thinking about as well. See if we can get some updated guidance from them.
And Attorney Miller, do you know how, like, the revolving door, right? When it's not locked, there are like emergency measures on it for it to break away, kind of, if there is people stuck in it. Is that correct?
I'm aware that there are doors that have that. I'm not aware if this is one of those doors.
Okay, so we're not aware if that's kind of standard or whatever.
I don't, just from personal experience, I don't know how common that is for a door of this size. But we can look into it and get back to the board.
Yeah. I think I remember the Smith and Wollensky's, and I think I was more on the, just intuitively more on the side that when they are closed and locked, it should be roped and signed, so people don't, in a panic go into there. But I mean, even when it's unlocked, they could go into it in a panic, and I don't think it would function that great as an emergency exit as well. So that's why I'm kind of looking for guidance from the expert.
Thank you. And Commissioner Kern, I've been advised that it actually is a breakaway door of the type you were describing. So yeah. It is.
And that's for emergency purposes, right?
Correct.
But that wouldn't operate like that when it's locked, right?
Likely no, because the locks would prevent it from breaking away, but in an emergency situation, it would break away to prevent people from backing up in it. That would be my guess.
Yeah, and this functionality is all the more reason I think we need some guidance from the experts, from building or fire.
Right. Yep, and we can reach out to fire and ISD to get this guidance between now and Thursday.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Commissioner Saxon, did you have any questions?
No, looking forward to the guidance. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. With no further questions from the board will take this under advisement as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Those are all the items before the board this morning. That will conclude this morning's hearing. Thank you, everybody.